half hour in. We're going to talk about some sports. If you saw last night, and I don't know why you would, because nobody's watching baseball anymore. Obviously, there's more important things happening than Yankees Blue Jays games, right? But last night, Jorge Posada, I guess, gets a ball thrown behind him by Jesse Carlson, pitcher for Toronto, and a riot ensues, basically. I mean, not really. It was a baseball fight. Benches cleared. People were fighting. A standard baseball fight. And this has been, Big TJ says overreaction. I agree, too. It's just a baseball fight. Right? And now these guys are both getting suspended. Several guys are getting docked a little bit of pay. Nothing big. I think the biggest fine is Carlson's, I believe, and it's like $3,000. So, big deal. I think the issue here, and something that I've kind of talked about before, but I'll expand on a little bit here, is the idea that it's a good thing to let these athletes police themselves in their sports or protect their teammates. And I'm trying to think of how to put this. It's kind of like hockey. It's a little bit like hockey in the hockey fights. Somebody takes out your best player, you send a goon in after him to beat him up, right? And they police themselves. And that's how it works, and that's how, the purists of these sports say that it's supposed to work. Oh, you just stay out of it, we police ourselves. All right? Somebody throws a ball at our guy, we're going to throw a ball at them. And that's how baseball works, and that's how it's always worked. But we're seeing now it's becoming a problem. I mean, it's becoming a serious problem. It's, it's lasting for days now. We're going to hear more about this fight tomorrow. We're going to see more video of this brawl tomorrow. And the only way to really get around this and to really kind of bring this to a halt is to start penalizing guys for throwing balls at other guys. I mean, you have to do more than just warn aside or maybe toss a guy out. I think that the idea that baseball players hurl a rock-hard sphere at each other at high speeds is reckless and dangerous and, assault. It should be a crime. But instead it's part of baseball, and we're policing our own sport, and we're protecting our guys. Well, listen, policing yourself doesn't work in society. It doesn't work in any other aspect of life. Why would it work in sports? I mean, what if that was our everyday life? We didn't need cops. Oh, we'll just police ourselves. No, we can't do that. That's why we have police, and that's why we have rules and structure. That's why these things are in place. You can't just leave it up to athletes to police themselves. Well, then you have problems because they're not qualified. You need rule makers in place, right? And what you need to do is, if a pitcher intentionally throws at a guy, you have to handle it. You have to take him out of the game. You have to fine him and possibly suspend him. I mean, it's just what you have to do. It's the only way to bring an end to this policing ourselves and intentionally throwing at each other nonsense. You have to start dealing with this. You know what I mean? You have to start penalizing these guys. I mean, it's dangerous. And then look what happened last night. A big brawl breaks out. And granted, that's part of sports. I mean, fighting is part of sports, and I understand that and I accept that. And Diggs and I have gotten to many arguments about, hockey fighting, because I say, listen, they need to penalize these guys more than just 10 minutes in the box. I mean, they need to suspend them, and they need to fine them like they do in other sports if a guy gets in a fight. And Diggs says, oh man, fighting's part of the game in hockey. And then of course I say, well, does the clock stop or keep going? Oh, the clock stops. It's not part of the game. It's a sideshow. I mean, it's a sideshow. And 10 minutes in the box, and then you're back on the ice, and no big deal. I mean, it's ridiculous. Policing yourself is absolutely ridiculous, and it doesn't work. You have to put rules in place to stop this nonsense from happening, and this dangerous behavior like fist fights and throwing balls at other people. You got to do something. I mean, Am I wrong? I feel right. I'm feeling pretty right about this. I'm feeling like baseball should do something. You know, have a committee. I know they have some sort of a committee, and just vote. Look at the tape, vote, decide if a pitcher intentionally threw at a batter, and then deal with him. Make him face the ramifications. You can't do that. All right. Apparently, two guys from the Yankees two guys from Toronto got beaned. Right, and so then this Jesse Carlson throws a ball behind Posada's head, and he takes offense and throws a little elbow, and then a giant fight breaks out. Yeah, it should have been stopped before that. I mean, it should have been stopped long before that. You know, it shouldn't have been allowed to get to this point, but that's what we do. Is we let these guys police themselves, and we let them take care of it. They're, you know, on their own, and that's what happens. So maybe it's time to fix that. Maybe it's time to amend that unwritten rule of, you know, policing your own league, and it's time for the people in charge to be the police, not the players. I mean, you can't have the inmates running the asylum, and that's essentially what it is. You have to have the people in charge, and make rules, enforce them. For the love of God. Oh, man. I can't wait to get to the fantasy football face punch. You know, and that's going to come up here in a little bit, and I did it right this time. Last week I just went through game by game, kind of told you who I liked and who I didn't. And this week I got back to the old format, the way I was doing it last year. And last year the fantasy football face punch was just an independent broadcast that I was doing. It was independent from my own show, and it was 30 minutes of fantasy football straight to your face hole. And I'm kind of bringing that back. It's still going to be a part of this show, but I'm going to do it the way I was doing it last year. I'm going to give you my 5 top quarterbacks. I'm going to give you my 5 top running backs, 5 top receivers, and 5 top tight ends with a small explanation for each. And then I'll go and I'll give you a sleeper and a bust at each position. So it'll be, you know, 1 QB, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 1 tight end, sleeper, bust, or let down, however you want to put it. So that's what's going to be coming up here in a little bit. I do want to say something. Fantasy Football 101, if you're familiar, is a show that I do on Saturdays with my friend Mark, who's not in here. He's usually in the chat room. Mark, Adam Stark, you may have heard of him, and our buddy Nicorelli. And we go in there every Saturday morning. We're on Sports Radio 1450, 8 a.m., so it's really, really early, but it's worth it. We have a lot of great listeners that call in every week, and literally the phone lines are flooded, and there's people that don't get in every week. So we're doing well. We're getting a lot of calls, and we're doing well. Last week I said I wasn't going to be on the show. I ended up actually going in. We were supposed to be rotating and going, you know, week by week, going, 2 guys and 2 guys. But anyhow, I talked to Stark. He said, come on in anyway, even though it was my day off. So I went in, and last Saturday I was on the show again. And this weekend is going to be like a slight change on 101. There are rumors that I may be slipping into the host seat for a week. So anyhow, we'll see what happens. Things are always changing, but as it seems now, I will be actually hosting Fantasy Football 101 this weekend along with Mark Graham. And I think Stark's going to be there, but he may be a little bit hungover or something along those lines, and he doesn't really want to talk. So he's going to come press buttons, and I'm gonna host the show. I mean, that's the plan now. So be sure to listen if you're around the Central Illinois area and you're up for some reason early on a Saturday. Go to Sports Radio 1450 on the AM dial or sportsradio1450.com, and you can listen online. The Power 1977 says, who to start, Fred Jackson or LT? To me, that's kind of easy. I go Fred Jackson. LT's a little dinged up. He's not even practicing. I go Fred Jackson. Besides, LT's, he's lost his step. I mean, he's lost his step. And I said this at the end of last season, and it seemed then everyone agreed with me. But for some reason, during the offseason, LT says, well, I'm mad. Everyone says that I'm washed up and I've lost it, so now I'm angry, and I'm going to show them. And everybody's kind of bought into this. Oh, LT's going to be back. He's going to show everybody, all the haters. Okay, listen, that's great that he's mad. it doesn't change the fact that he can't compete at the same level that he used to.